Bourbon Barkeep, my name's Curtis. Thanks for joining us. Penelope, finally making the channel. There wasn't anything against them. I just didn't find Havana. Didn't find, what was the other one? Valencia or Rio. So been striking out quite a bit. But we got a special Penelope rare release here. Let's get this in the glass and get this underway. "2024 seemed to be the year of the rye. I mean, Little Book was doing a little rye thing, mixed in rye, to be fair. Knob Creek 10-year came out in 2024. Who else do we have? We had the Burr Rye come out, just rise on rise, and here we are, 2025, and is it the year of the light whiskey? Not in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be reviewing light whiskey, let alone twice, mainly because I didn't know this category existed. So you may be asking yourself, Curtis, I didn't see any other episodes that you've done of light whiskey. What is it? And I'll give you a little tag, a little card up in one of these corners, but let's sum it up. In 1968, apparently people were like, hey, I'm not drinking bourbon, I'm drinking vodka. And Ron Swanson, not yet born, was just so freaking mad. But guess what? We recovered and we got WhiskeyTube, Whiskey Channels out the freaking yin-yang at this point. I'm guilty, but light whiskey, they were like, hey, we can't afford to use all these new American oak barrels. We're just going to use some that are uncharred. And the bourbon community was like, not in our circle, you're not. So the light whiskey circle was like, well, guess what? I'm making my own circle. And it didn't do well. Still not doing that great. But we've already done a light whiskey on this channel, and it did great in the census category. So guess what? We'll probably compare them, see where that goes. But we got Penelope, American light whiskey, 17 years old, 138.8 proof. I was intrigued. I walked into Pina, local liquor store out here. Shout out to Deep. And he was like, guess what, man? I got a rare bottle. And I'm like, let's see that pappy. And he gave me the Penelope. I was like, that's not the same, but let's do that. 17 years. The suggested retail was 100. Deep charged me 120. And once I figured that out, I was like, man, do you hate me? But you know what? Guys got to make a living, and I'm still excited to taste it. For 17 years at that proof, you're getting your money's worth, hopefully. Let's see how it tastes, I guess. As this warms up, we got a couple things to cover. We got to like, subscribe. I don't know if I've said that yet. You are not spammed. It's just showing your support for the channel, and it's free. So for the people that give thumbs down, I don't know why, but it still hurts. Even though it's like one person every video is just out there. Thumbs down, thumbs down. And yeah, I did ask Noah, and it's not him. So that made me feel a lot better about it. Now, this is actually Penelope's third release of doing light whiskey, and somehow it keeps getting older and older. So good for Ross and Squibb. That's who bought Penelope, if we haven't covered that yet. Their first release was 13 years. Their second release, 15 years. And that was at $130, if I remember right. Their 17-year, the third release, the oldest release, they dropped the price. It's happening! It's happening! Prices are dropping, folks. So suggested retail, $100. My guy Deep maybe pocketed the other 20, and I slightly respect him more for it. Let's get this on the nose and see, is this actually worth $100 to $120-ish, apparently. Wow. That's went too aggressive. Wow, that's sweet. Butterscotchy, vanilla, like a peach or an apricot. It's like a slight sourness to it that peach doesn't have, but there's a nice sweetness to it. Whew, that was another big nose. I'm going in way too aggressive on 138 plus proof. That is a mistake. As this starts to open up in my hand, because I'm still in a very cold basement at this point, and also excited for a high proof bottle for a new release, we got a little more strawberry coming out. That it's very fruit forward, which is great. I like that. Also brought me back to elementary school. Go Skyhawks. Vanilla wafers. I don't think I've had one since then, but vanilla wafer. We got some apricot, some peach, and butterscotch. I'm intrigued. Let's get it on the palate. Oh boy. She's strong. She's strong, and you feel her way down into your tummy tum. Man, that's good. That's rich. Okay. Dark brown sugar, cinnamon. It's like a frosting. Man. Oh man. That's good. Wow. That is exactly what I needed to timestamp this thing in mid-February. And it is gray and sad and cold. That is delightful. All right, let's see if that hangs around. I don't like to give a ton of tasty notes on sip one because, things change. You acclimate, especially at this high of a proof. Let's get it on the palate, see what else we got. It's thick. It's oily. It coats the tongue. Fantastic. Even if you try and get it down the middle of the tongue, it explodes the sides and hangs there for a very long time. And I love what hangs there because it's a cinnamon Pop-Tart. It has this nice buttery, pastry, savory side to it with this great, rich vanilla cinnamon that is frosting. And when they all come together, cinnamon Pop-Tart, and it's my favorite Pop-Tart, to be fair. The ending, the finish, that's the technical term. Like a waffle cone. Like I feel like that Pop-Tart kind of continues, but you licked off the icing prior to finishing the pastry piece of it. You just look over and your little brother is just, You're like, God, man, how are we from the same people? But that richness, I mean, it's tough to, that vanilla is amped up into this like creme brulee custard. And it's very good. It's very rich. Some people are going to be scared off by the price, to be fair, but also by that proof. I mean, I don't blame you. So when we do a lot of these tastings, especially the one bottle features, I like to compare it just to see, okay, there's another light American whiskey out there. Which one should you choose? Because you're probably not picking both. And depending on how this review goes, you're probably not picking either, to be fair. So I'm going to pour up that other light American whiskey we got and see what we're going to pull the trigger on. Jacob's Pardon. Once again, this is a weird episode for me because I didn't think that Jacob's Pardon would make it back to the channel. Not because I didn't like it, just because I don't know too many people are searching for light whiskey, let alone hazmat, because this is clocking in at 142.7 proof. We did a deep dive into this guy, as previously mentioned. I don't know if I'll throw another card up, but having two American light whiskeys up here is... Whew, things are happening up here. So, we got Jacob's Pardon coming in 18 years old. One more. We got one more year between them, a little more proof, and a lot more girth. That's for sure. On the bottle. We'll figure it out side by side. Jacob's Pardon. This is batch 3, mind you. If you come out there and you're looking for Jacob's Pardon at the 140 plus area, and you find batch 2, which I think is not 140, don't pull the trigger because you didn't hear the review from me. Look up someone else's because I didn't do it. All right. $180 compared to, we'll call it 120. Just refuse to believe that Deep did me like that, but here we are. All right, full review. Let's just go side by side, see what happens. Still a lot of ethanol, the same amount, to be fair. It still stings the nostrils like a good Sex Panther. This one I would even say is harder to get into. What I do get, besides the ethanol right off the bat, is like a nice, like a candied ginger and molasses, dark brown sugar. These are all going to be very dark notes in case you were curious. A little bit of chocolate. I still feel like that pastry, that sweet pastry, like a biscotti, kind of comes out of here. It's still, I mean, I remember it greatly because it was kind of shocking, if you will, how much of a rum vibe this actually gave me nose, and let's see if it's still through the palate. It's so smooth. I mean, don't get me wrong, it feels like you're drinking 120, 125 proof. It's 142, 143-ish if we're rounding up. It's so much rum. The fact that it's not finished in a rum cask or just rum itself is shocking to me. It has the rich molasses, the dark brown sugar, the maple syrup, the chocolate continues, that ginger even continues with the spice to where it has an odd freshness that's not a cinnamon or a pepper spice to it. It's like a nice, fresh, somehow ginger in there. I think the hard part is going to be for the people that are not pulling the trigger on a $100 plus bottle, you're tapped out anyways. So the people the whiskey enthusiast that is looking for something unique to put into their collection, am I paying $180 or $120? That's a large price jump. So that's going to be very difficult. I mean, when you're talking, they're high aged, you're getting great value for what it is, right? I mean, when we're boiling it all down to the specs itself, 17, 18, and we'll call it plus 135 proof. I mean, these are both cask strength. Which one would I choose? Let's revisit. I think for as fun as the Jacob's Pardon is, I do think I would save the money. I mean, it's a large price jump. If this came down, if you saw it on sale, maybe some of these bottles would be sitting there with a higher price tag and no one really wanted to take a chance on a light whiskey. If you were telling me this was 150, I'm pulling the trigger over the Penelope. But as of right now, I would save the money. I love the rum aspect of it. Being a cigar guy, I think that this drink's just as oily. Yeah, I'm going to save the money. Now let's score this Penelope bottle. We got Whiskey of the Year, obviously right around the corner. 10 months, but it'll feel like a breeze at this point. Into the scoring piece of this, we got Whiskey of the Year to figure out. And Jacob's Pardon, so far doing well in the senses. Penelope, let's find out. We got our categories. I'll throw up on one of these sides. Helps kind of lead and guide me into what was the experience like. And then, unlike some channels, we do a little bang for the buck. Did I get what I paid for? Obviously, we take year proof into consideration. Doesn't have to be high proof, but ultimately it's less water. So at least my palate, it helps. So senses wise, what is in the glass? I don't care if it was $500. What's in the glass? I do think it's barely great, which, man, that is a glass half empty way of saying that, but it's great. I'm going to go 81. I enjoy it. Cinnamon Pop-Tart in a glass, but not in like an Amberana way, in the way that I wish Amberana would treat me sometimes. Now for the hard part, the controversial part. Let's call it $120. I mean, that's what I paid. If you can find it cheaper, you can make your own scoring system. So for $120, I don't feel like I didn't get my money's worth in terms of a 17-year-old whiskey at an absurd proof. I mean, talk about experiencing it straight from the barrel. I did it. I felt it all the way down. It's still going down. But ultimately, I'm not paying too far above it. This is not a bottle to where I could feel if they put it out for $170, I would get my stamp of approval on. So I feel like they probably recognize that, lowering their 15-year price when the 17 year came out. So we'll go a cool 71. I think the specs line up for what you want your price to be. I feel like this is going to be one of those whiskey enthusiast bottles that I would really want on my shelf when you start kind of piling up a fair amount of bottles. And your wife looks at you, she's like, so the kids aren't going to college. And I'm like, well, but it's good bang for the buck. And I just walk away. I hope she doesn't throw anything. So there we go. We'll plug that into the Whiskey of the Year rankings. We do a revisit, usually off camera, to be fair, and see how it opens up. But ultimately, it's pretty delicious. I enjoy the rum a little bit more, but I can't sit there and tell you, oh yeah, that's definitely $70 more. This is delicious, and I'm excited to have it on the shelf. I think it's really exciting to sit there and be like, hey, look at this 99% corn American light whiskey that's 17 years old. I think it's absurd, actually, that's that cheap. Good for Penelope. There's not a lot of distillers out there that are doing the Lord's work and keeping whiskey prices in check. Like, subscribe, and let's see what else we can throw up on the channel.